There's another, oh, there was a t-shirt that was just picked up off the stage here, so somebody left their t-shirt, and Wendy's holding onto it. It's a little one, so if you're missing a little t-shirt, see Wendy. And I'll turn it over to the troupe. People you don't know who these people are.
Hi. The story I'm going to tell you took place long ago in a country quite far away. It was a pretty country with rolling fields and forests and some hills not too high, but just right for climbing up and having a look around. Of course, this country had a king. In fact, he was such a big king, he was called an emperor, which is just a fancy name for a king who thinks very highly of himself. He wasn't a bad emperor, and the people liked him pretty well, but he did have one weakness. He loved clothes. He had many, many different emperor outfits, and he changed clothes many, many times a day. In fact, he liked nothing better than to spend all day playing dress-up and looking at himself in the mirror. The people knew this about their emperor, but they didn't mind. They would just roll their eyes and say, oh well, he's not a bad sort, really. Let him have his fancy outfits. However, there were two men who thought about the emperor's weakness for clothing quite a bit. They were very clever men and not at all nice. They hatched an idea for a way to make money by tricking the silly emperor. They went to him and said, "Look here, your highness. We are weavers and tailors, the very best in the land, and we would be honored if you would allow us to weave you some beautiful cloth and to fashion from it the most amazing and most kingly outfit you or anyone else has ever seen." The emperor was very interested. He said, Then they said that not only will this costume be beautiful, but it will be magical. Ooh, said the emperor. Then they said, this cloth will be invisible to anyone who is stupid or does not honor you. Ah, said the emperor. This did sound interesting. So the emperor gave the two men a great deal of money and also some spun gold and some jewels which they requested for the weaving of the cloth and a room in the castle in which to work. The men took the gold and the jewels and went into the room and locked the door. For 3 days they worked. No one was allowed to go in. The emperor could only hold his ear up to the door and listen. He tried to look through the keyhole, but they blocked it. He tried to look under the door, but they put fabric there. He tried to look over the door, but it was too short. He looked under the violinist and the cellist. He still couldn't see him. Finally, they were ready. They asked to see the emperor and all his courtiers to show them the wonderful outfit they had made with the magic cloth. Don't forget, these men were tricksters. They hadn't woven any cloth at all. They had put all the gold and jewels in their pockets and pretended to work for 3 days. What they had to show the emperor was exactly nothing. The emperor and all his courtiers gathered together in the great hall to view the magic outfit. The weavers entered carrying a trunk and walked slowly up to the waiting monarch. They slowly opened the trunk. No one dared breathe or make a peep. Behold! Just look at these trousers, this bejeweled jacket. And here, your most worthy and illustrious lordship, is your golden cloak. See how light they are, like gossamer spiderwebs, so light you will hardly feel them once on. Please, will you remove your clothes and let us dress you for the royal procession? The emperor and his men just stood there. No one saw anything, but no one wanted to admit it. What if the cloth really was magic and only smart people could see it? If anyone admitted that he could not see it, that would mean that he was stupid. The emperor took a big breath and said, yes, you have quite outdone yourselves. I can see the golden threads and the jewels all woven in. It is worthy indeed. All the courtiers joined in. The emperor went behind a screen with the tricksters and took off all his clothes. They helped him get dressed. They put his legs into imaginary trousers, his arms into imaginary sleeves, and tied on an imaginary cloak. Then they led him to a big mirror so he could admire himself. He turned this way and that, looking at the front, side, and back. He nodded. He acted pleased. He was naked. And so the big parade began. The poor emperor couldn't say anything, because that would mean he was too stupid to be in his own court. No one else in the parade dare say anything either. He marched down Broad Street holding his head up high and looking as kingly as he could. Hundreds of people lined the streets. They all saw a naked emperor, but no one dared say anything. No one wanted to be thought stupid. Except for one little girl. She was too small to know the rules. She stood up and in a very powerful voice said,
"Look, the emperor is naked!"
Well, everyone knew that little girl was right. The courtiers all knew. The people in the street all knew. Even the emperor knew. He wanted to be invisible and disappear just like his clothes. He wanted to be anywhere but in that parade. But what could he do? He was the emperor. He stood up even straighter and held up his kingly head even higher and just kept on marching. And the band kept on playing and playing and playing until he was out of sight. So it's good to be back.
Nice clothes.
So the next piece we have for you was also commissioned. These are all 3 commissioned works from Philadelphia composers. Actually, one's from Argentina, but hey. And this one is actually a favorite of mine because it has a young woman as the hero, which is nice. Because typically these folk tales have guys, so it's nice to see women getting there too. This story is called The Princess and the Man with a Pure Heart. It comes from a very old book of stories from India called the Mahabharata. People still tell these stories in many countries, including India, Thailand, Cambodia, and Indonesia. But before I can tell you the story, I'm going to need your help with some magic. Sometimes, in the countries where the stories from the Mahabharata are famous, people use special magic words called mantra, words when they want something good to happen. They're often spoken in an old language called Sanskrit. Now here are the numbers 1, 2, 3 in Sanskrit. Eka, Dui, Tree. So let's see if we can create a magical mantra. A word often used, a magical word is abracadabra. So are there any suggestions in the audience? Maybe you guys know magic words. Yeah.
Avada-kedavra?
Avada-kedavra. I don't know if I can say that a second time. Let's see any other. Yes. Open sesame. That's a good one. Okay. Yeah. Fooey. I use that one a lot, actually. Yeah. Alakazam. Oh, yeah, we got a little Middle Eastern spin on that there. Yeah.
Atharia?
Atharia. Okay. You got all sorts of complicated ones there. Yeah, anyway, I see a blue shirt there. Oh. Gefilte fish. I don't know what would come up if we use that word. Any other? Yeah. Alakazoo. Well, I'll tell you what. Oh, wait, we got one more up there. Hocus pocus. Yeah. Oh, another one. Alakazamra? Alakazama. Yeah. You got another one. I don't know. Let's see if I can pronounce this one.
Poof.
Pooh?
Poof. With an F.
Which one?
Poof. Yes, poof.
Pooh. Yeah, I'm gonna keep away from that one too. Yeah. Zimbabwe. Yeah. I think that's actually, they use the Democratic Republic of Congo now for that one. Yeah. I'm not even going to go there with that one. Yeah. Bippity boppity boo. All right. Yeah. Classic. Yeah, one more.
Open sesame.
Open sesame. Well, I think we heard that one before. I think that's a good one. So let's run with open sesame. So when I count to 3 in Sanskrit, I want you guys to say open sesame. And if you speak it loudly enough, maybe we'll make our musicians play a magic sound. Eka, Dui, Tree.
Open sesame.
All right, you hear that? Let's try to get it a little louder. Let's see if we can really get them going. You guys kind of sounded like you could use a double shot of espresso or something. Let's try this again. Eka, Dui, Tree.
Open sesame.
All right, that's great. Now, whenever we need something magic to happen, I'm going to count to 3 in Sanskrit and ask you to say the mantra. And now, for the story. Thousands of years ago, in the kingdom of Anga, there was a deadly drought. Many months went by with no rain. Since they had no water, the farmers couldn't grow their crops. People went hungry. The king summoned the wisest men from throughout the kingdom. "I'm desperate," he said. "People are dying. Can somebody make it rain?" The wise men conferred, and then they said amongst themselves, "If a man with a pure heart asks for rain, it will come." The king looked at them, astonished. Where could we hope to find a man with such a pure heart? Meanwhile, as the men pondered this problem, the king's daughter, Princess Santa, snuck into the room and listened to them in secret. "What can I do to help?" she thought to herself. "Wait," said a wise man from a distant province. "By the river's edge, in a remote forest in the farthest part of my province, there lives a young man named Rishasringa, or Rishi. His father is a holy man, and his mother was a deer. He lives in a secluded hut with his father. His heart is pure. He's never even seen another human being. If he sees a stranger, he will certainly hide. No man would ever be able to find him." "Well, then it's hopeless," cried the king. "We'll never get him to come here." But Princess Santa boldly stepped into the circle of men. "Leave it to me," she said. "I know what to do." She instructed the king, "Order your men to take all of the seats out of one of the royal barges. Tell them to fill the boat with dirt and then cover it with bushes, branches, and flowers, and make it invisible so that it looks just like the forest. Tell them to attach a line to the front and carefully tow it downriver all the way until they reach Rishi's forest. Then they should tie it up carefully. I will ride with the barge the whole trip up." All was done exactly as the princess said, and so began the long trip down the river. The princess was amazed at what she saw. Orange-throated birds with crowns of fire, snakes with faces on their tails, and grinning monkeys that carried children on their hairy backs as they swung through the trees. On and on and on they rode, as if in a dream, until at last they reached their destination. The princess found Rishi's hut, but it was empty. A handsome stag, or male deer, gazed at her from a clearing in the distance. Princess Santa thought, "I'll bet Rishi used his magic to transform himself into that stag to hide from me." So she turned her back to the animal and loudly cried, "Oh no! Woe is me! I came a long way to see Rishi, but he's nowhere to be found. Now I shall never meet him." Well, the princess guessed the truth. Rishi had changed himself, but when he saw this heartbroken person standing before his hut, he felt pity in his heart and decided to become human again. Now, do you remember the magical mantra we learned at the beginning? Rishi needs your help for his magic. After I count off, say the mantra as loudly as you can so that he can turn back into a person. Eki, Dwi, Tree.
Open sesame.
When Princess Santa turned around to face the clearing, there stood a young man with eyes that were calm and piercing, like those of a deer. "Welcome to my forest," he said. "I am Rishi." Princess Santa and Rishi spent the whole afternoon enchanted by each other's company. He introduced her to the magical calm of his forest. She gave him delicious foods and drinks that he'd never before tasted. She introduced him to games he had never dreamt of. They played tag, hide and seek. They also played catch using a rubber ball that she had brought. She even taught him the strange custom of pressing her lips against his. Then she departed. That evening, Rishi's father returned to the hut with the bitter fruits, tough nuts, and dry roots he gathered for them to eat. He found Rishi staring off into space. He saw that Rishi had done none of his chores, and he was angry. "What's the matter with you? Have you lost your mind?" Rishi looked up at his father. "I'm sad because my friend is gone." "What friend?" "A visitor came to see me. He had beautiful, smooth skin and long hair tied up with fragrant flowers. He gave me exquisite foods and drinks, the best I've ever tasted, and he taught me to play wonderful games called tag and hide and go seek. He had delicious foods and a strange custom of pressing his lips against mine." Rishi's father exploded with rage. "That was no friend," he shouted. "That was an evil demon, a Rakshasa. It wasn't playing with you. It was trying to eat you. You should never have spoken to it. When it returns, I will kill it." Now, Rishi didn't know much about the world, but he wasn't dumb. So the next morning, after Rishi's father went out to gather food, Rishi stole out of the house and ran to his hut where he could keep a careful watch. When Princess Santa appeared in the clearing, he hurried to join her. "It's not safe for you here. We must leave before my father returns. Take me with you to another place in the forest where we can hide together." So the princess led Rishi to the riverbank and on to the royal boat, which covered in dirt, bushes, branches, and flowers, looked and smelled exactly like the surrounding forest. Rishi had no idea that they were actually floating on the water. While their boat was ever so gently towed back upriver, The princess again entertained Rishi with games of catch and tag. She again offered him wondrous foods and drinks. Frozen lasses of mango and jackfruit. Golden pakoras and samosas that would have pleased the gods. Puri breads that floated like balloons and sheets of transparent papadum. But Rishi was content just to gaze at his new friend. At dusk, their boat docked by the palace of Anga. The princess led Rishi ashore. Rishi was stunned by what he saw. There were no trees, no bushes, no flowers, no birds. Only the dry, barren soil, cracked and lifeless after months without rain. The princess whispered, "Ask for rain." But Rishi was in shock. He just stood there, staring. Okay. Now Rishi needs your help more than ever. Shout the mantra as loudly as you can to help him make it rain. Eki, Dui, Tree.
Open sesame!
Rishi looked to the sky and opened his mouth. And the drops of rain began to fall right away. Within minutes, the drizzle had become a downpour, drenching the land. A great sigh of relief was heard all throughout the kingdom. The king summoned everyone for a great festival. People came to the palace from near and far. You see, the kingdom had much to celebrate. The new harvest and plenty of food for everyone. Once again, clouds of smoke from incense drifted over open-air markets clogged with vendors selling their wares. Priests in long robes sprinkled children with holy water, and the people cried tears of joy, not just for the return of rain, but something else too. The joyous wedding ceremony of Rishi and Princess Santa. And they lived happily ever after. audience is invited to enjoy themselves. The next one is called, well, in Spanish, it's an Argentinian tale, so it's Las Manchas del Sapo. Anyone know what that means? Yeah?
Something in whatever language you said?
It's not Sanskrit. Yes, the spots of the toad. Ladies and gentlemen, children and grown-ups, cats and dogs, flies and mosquitoes. Welcome. We'll tell the story of a toad who dared to dream the impossible. Sit tight and listen as we now start. All the birds of the world were invited to a great ball in the sky. Toad found out about it and wanted to go, but did not know how to fly so high. He knew that Eagle, who liked to hear himself sing, would bring his guitar to the party. So he thought that perhaps he could catch a ride by hiding inside the instrument. Spying from behind a bush, Toad saw Eagle tuning the strings of the guitar and then strapping the guitar to his claw. Just before Eagle took off, Toad gathered courage and jumped inside Eagle's guitar, but he tripped on the strings. Startled by the noise, Eagle turned around and looked inside the guitar. But Toad hid deep inside, so Eagle did not see him. Not finding anything unusual, Eagle took off and flew higher and higher. Oh, what a ride it was! Peeking behind the strings, Toad saw mountains, plains, rivers, deserts, and eventually clouds and stars. He was so happy to be there. He had always wanted to fly like a bird, but being a toad and all, whenever he tried, he'd only been able to hop. Flying for real was so different. When Eagle arrived to the party in the sky, all the birds were already there, impeccably dressed, sitting down at a large table, chatting and eating a delicious dinner. Being very careful this time, and without being noticed, Toad got out of the guitar and introduced himself by saying, "Good evening, everyone. I am Toad." He sat at the table and started to eat. The birds couldn't understand how the toad had gotten there. Owl nervously leaned to Seagull and asked, "What is he doing here?" But Seagull only shrugged his shoulders. "Can you believe that guy?" said Woodpecker to Vulture. "Scandalous," said Flamingo to Hummingbird. The cardinals changed their seats, and Toucan even got up to go to the bathroom. It was a great party. Everyone drank and ate, danced and sang all night and into the morning. Unfortunately, Toad kept burping without saying, "Excuse me." This attracted the attention of the crows, who indignantly flapped their wings and whispered in each other's ears, commenting on the Toad's rude manners. But Toad did not care, for he was having the time of his life, dancing to the music, jumping all over the place, twirling around and around and around, drinking as much as he could, eating and singing, drinking as much as he could, all the while looking at the stars and the earth and the plains, rivers, deserts, Portland, Bangor, Kennebunkport, even Fort Kent, all the way down below. When the party was finally over, Toad did not know how to get back inside the guitar without being noticed. Everybody was watching him, but then since it was very late, Canary started to sing a beautiful melody. The birds got distracted by Canary, and seeing this, Toad hopped and jumped back inside the guitar like he'd done before. But this time, Eagle saw him out of the corner of his eye and realized the trick. Now that Toad will learn his lesson, he grumbled. Eagle picked up his guitar and started to fly back, pretending everything was normal. But then, he turned his guitar upside down. Toad held onto the strings as much as he could, but he was slipping. Eagle started shaking his guitar with the hole facing down. Eventually, poor Toad lost his grip and fell down all the way from the sky. As he was falling, Toad started screaming, "Give me a parachute, please!" But nobody paid attention to him. "Give me a hot air balloon, please!" But nobody answered. "Give me a helicopter, a plane, a rocket! At least put some cushions on the ground, please!" Suddenly, Toad fell on the green branches of a tree and kept rolling to a red muddy bog. He bounced against the walls of a blue rocky canyon, and he was thrown into a house right through the window to a kitchen table where children were playing with yellow Play-Doh. Toad was sticky and dirty, with green leaves from the tree, red mud from the bog, blue rocks from the canyon, and yellow Play-Doh from the children. All those colors together on Toad scared the children, who started screaming and running around the kitchen. Toad, who was also very tired, scared and bruised from the fall, started screaming too and jumped off the window. He kept running and jumping and running deep into the forest until he was out of sight. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, flies, mosquitoes, butterflies, ladybugs, and cockroaches. You've all heard the story of an incredibly adventurous Toad, one who boldly went where no Toad has gone before. He only got a few boo-boos. By the way, no animals were harmed in the composition of this piece. Watch out and see. Perhaps one day you'll meet the brave Toad with green, red, blue, and yellow spots. Be nice to him, and perhaps he'll tell you his secret